Hi, I'm Dave, welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mundon Park, episode 5. This time, I'm going to redo that car park. You might also notice I've got a nice new t-shirt. This is a present from a friend of mine, Milligan, and it features unlikely YouTube star, Jimmy Thumbs Up Man. So let's take a look at the old car park. Now, the old car park I did just kind of slap together in a bit of a hurry. It's too thick a piece of wood. I didn't really cut the grooves out properly to put the slots in for the guides. I just used an angle grinder and made a right mess and a load of smoke. It's ugly. And of course up this end there's been a few changes of plan. So it doesn't even fit properly anymore. So it needs replacing, basically. The other thing you'll see is there are no slot car stands here. I've been using track clips to keep the back wheels of the cars off the ground while they've been sitting there. Not the best either, so we'll get round that too. The first thing to do is make a template of the space that I need to make a car park for. Using my favourite templating material, some cheap lining wallpaper, which of course has been on a roll for ages, so it's a bit of a fight. Now just trace around the edge of where the bits of track are. A bit more fighting with a roller paper. Now I shall teach it a lesson with a pair of scissors. So that bit is the shape of the car park. And here it is on 2 pieces of plywood. And I've marked out the shape. And I've marked out my car parking spaces and some slots. I've marked these out at 16 centimetres long by 10 centimetres wide, and the slot is obviously in the middle, and I've marked it to be 5 centimetres long. And I've done them all the way along. And I'm going to keep this section separate. I was going to use it for some landscaping before, and we're going to have a bit of fun with that in another episode later on. So for now, that's all marked out. Now there's some missing footage here. The camera battery went flat, so just make some power tool noises in your head and pretend that I'm jigsawing round cutting out a shape and using a router to cut a load of slots. And here's all the slots. So now I'm going to start with some old undercoat I found in the cupboard in the back of the shed, and just paint over everywhere where I've marked a line that's going to be a car parking space line. I'm no Bob Ross, it's fair to say. So there we are, fairly roughly painted straight onto the plywood. It's just some undercoat paint. So the next thing, you may remember if you've watched this channel, a little while ago I did world's cheapest slot car stands, just using some pieces of leftover magnetic racing kit MDF. So what I'm going to do is cut 2cm wide strips of this. And then I'm cutting them into 7cm lengths, so they're kind of 2cm by 7cm, little flat bits of 2mm thick MDF. And the idea is the belly of the car will sit on these, and obviously the guide will fit in the slot. Just get a few cars and check I've got my measurements right and everything's going to work properly. The Alpha's quite a short stubby car. That Capri's kind of an average size slot car, and that BMW's quite a long old barge. So as long as they all fit, we're good. There's me having a think. Yep, I'm happy with that. So obviously the next thing to do is stick these down with a bit of wood adhesive. So now they're all stuck down across both bits of ply. It's time for some polyfiller. What I'm going to do is just try and take the sharp edges off of these pieces of wood, so that once it's all painted black, yeah, okay, it'll look like a bit of a bumpy car park, but there won't be a sharp edge, so there won't be kind of a sharp dark shadow, so they don't, maybe they're less obvious. That's the plan anyway. The fun thing about these speeded up bits of film is it sounds like I live next to a racetrack when the cars go past on the street outside. So there we are, quite a splodgy old mess of filler, which now needs sanding. Cameo appearance by a little bug on the end of the wood there. This was the longest and most time-consuming bit of the whole build, it has to be said. But eventually, as you can see, everything is sanded back, and there's just kind of a little fillet of filler around all of them, just to take the sharp edges, as I say, off the sides of the pieces of wood. You don't want to ramp them out too far, because if you do, it defeats the object and the tyres will touch them, and that's not the idea. So they have to be quite sharp bumps, but not straight-sided. So now it's time to mask off where I actually want the car park lines. So I've cut some very thin strips of masking tape. It's deliberately poor quality masking tape. I don't want it to stick too well because I do want the black paint to bleed underneath it slightly, just to sort of take the sharpness off the edges. I do not want this car park to look like it was made yesterday. It wants to be a little bit used, so I kind of want the white lines to be slightly distressed, I suppose. So my favourite pretend tarmac, black masonry doorstep paint. I've used this before, you will have seen probably. The great thing about it is it literally will stick to anything. So there we are, finished, all painted black. And I think that little filleting of those blocks has worked quite well. I mean, yes, you can still see them, but they are visually much lower impact than they would have been if I'd left them square edged, I think. So now, because I don't want it to be a consistent black colour, I'm going to use a bit of grey car primer and just dust some on, just to remove some of the consistency from the black. And I'm going to use some gloss black as well, just to change. Some of it's satin, some of it's gloss, some of it's a bit grey, you know, variation across the whole piece of board. And now it's time for the big reveal. We'll take the masking tape off and see what the lines look like. As you can see, there is some slight black paint bleed under the masking tape onto the lines. That's exactly what I was going for. And now, using the best tool, dirty hands, I'm just going to rub that white paint a bit more, just to take some of the brightness off of the white, just to dull it down a little bit. I even got a little bit of mud off the grass there just to rub into it as well. And there we are, a set of car park lines that don't look like they were painted yesterday. I particularly like that one over the back there because I don't quite know what happened. Happy accident. It looks like somebody's done a burnout right across the white line. So a bit more gymnastics and we'll fit this back into the layout. It's lucky that fitted because I didn't check the bit of wood before I painted it. And there we are in place. I think those slabs are lower impact visually. You know, if I move the camera quickly you can't see them at all. I do need to tidy those slots up a little bit more though. And here is the cars on it. And it did work out right. They are all sitting, as I planned, very slightly off the ground, but it looks like they're parked properly. And of course we should check in with our biggest critic, Jimmy Thumbs Up Man. And he approves. As always, thank you for watching one of my videos. If you've liked it, you'll find a button specifically for that. Please subscribe to the channel, it really helps. And if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications when I post new videos. And this week, check out this slot car channel. Now, while I was in the middle of creating this scenery video, my phone got an alert and it said, Boone has subscribed to your channel. Now, I'm sure you probably know Boone, but if you don't, go and check out his channel. Boone is the god of scenery making. He really is. His videos are long, epically long, and always amazing.